So just to let you all know, this will be recorded. We kind of depending on how people feel, we may end up stop recording at Q&A, and we'll go from there. Okay, so my name is Carleen Ratcliffe. I'm an academic advisor here in the College of Nursing. I most likely will be your potentially will be your advisor in the next coming up in fall quarter. Kind of depends. We've got some changes potentially coming through just in the College of Nursing in terms of structure, so it may now or may not. But even if I'm not your advisor, you're always welcome to reach out with questions or concerns or anything like that. I'd love to see your faces or hear from y'all. And then I will also pass it over to my colleague, Grace.
Hello all, I'm Grace Laguna. I'm also an undergraduate academic advisor here at Seattle U's College of Nursing. I work with undergraduates as well, so many of you we will be working alongside Carleen and me with questions, especially as it comes up in fall. So great to see your faces, and yeah, let's get started.
All right, so for today, we've got a little bit of, let's see, is this gonna work? There we go. Welcome to Seattle University in the nursing program. So we've already gone over that. We've already got one slide. We've got a couple of things. I just wanted to give you an agenda to kind of understand what we're going through today. First, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce key faculty and staff, faculty and staff that you may interact with, including Grace and I. We'll talk about an advising model because this is our advising session. So just kind of getting you prepped for the next couple of years and thinking about what this looks like to chat with an advisor over the course of the time. Talk about academic advising just in general. We'll talk about a typical program of study. So what your layout is for your classes and for your courses in your program over the next 4 years and kind of what to expect for that. Obviously, it's not going to apply perfectly to everybody if you're coming in with credit or if you move things around or something like that. There's some flexibility that we have, not a ton, but we'll go over what it looks like at a typical program of study. Talk about your academic expectations in terms of your GPA and grades for the College of Nursing. We'll talk about the My Seattle U software, which you aren't going to be using today, but you will use next month when we do registration for classes, because you will register in July. And then we'll talk a little bit about study abroad. We'll have some next steps for fall quarter. We'll also talk about some other questions, maybe like SATs, ACT scores, like if you're thinking about minors or electives or your ALEC scores and things like that. And then we will have time for question and answer. So just in terms of leadership, just so you know from kind of the top down, Dr. Butch DeCastro is the Dean of the College of Nursing. That's basically the head of the College of Nursing. He runs everything. He doesn't do a lot of day-to-day work with students a lot, though he loves talking with y'all. If you ever have a question or just want to pop in and say hi, he's in the grand building on the Seattle U campus. He would love to see you, but he kind of runs everything. And then Melissa Owen is the Interim Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programs. And so basically she is in charge of everything to do with undergraduate programs of which you are a part. So your 4-year undergraduate BSN program, she runs that on both on a larger level and some of the day-to-day stuff as well. Maret Aziz, you may or may not interact with. She is the program director for diagnostic ultrasound, also called DIUS. That is the other major that's in the College of Nursing. So there's nursing and then DIUS make up the College of Nursing in general. Okay, so your advising team, Grace and I have just introduced ourselves to y'all. And then the other person that works with us, an advisor, is Rhonda Mitchell. She works primarily with the transfer program. So within the College of Nursing and the nursing programs, there's the 4-year program, which y'all are in. And then there's also the 2-year program or transfer program. So they come in as juniors. They have their first 2 years of college debt, including their prereqs, and then they do their last 2 years. So Rhonda works primarily with those students, and then Grace and I work primarily with y'all in the 4-year program. I keep losing my mouse. There we go. Okay, and then program and clinical onboarding coordinator. So these are the people that kind of run the nitty-gritty day-to-day things when it comes to like getting paperwork done, signing things, getting y'all started with maybe some orientation or at your very end with graduation things. When you start clinicals in your sophomore year, and we'll go into that, there's going to be a lot of work with Maya and Rebel and Tammy with that area because they run those particular things. There's always paperwork and onboarding and things like that for clinicals. So Maya, Rebel, and Tammy you will come in contact with them in the next couple of years, and they are also part of what we call the BSN team that work with the advisors to make sure that y'all have what you need for your program. All right, so for your advising model, basically advising is when you sit down with an advisor and you talk to us about what's going on, both within your life, within the quarter, within academics, anything that's going on. And There's a difference between professional advisors and faculty advisors. Professional advisors are like Grace and I, we do not teach. The only thing that we do is work as an advisor to work with y'all as students. And so those are called professional advisors. So we are considered staff because we don't teach. We are not faculty. Faculty teach. The other option is going to be faculty advisors. And those are basically folks within the College of Nursing that teach classes, but also advise a small amount of students. So in your first 2 years, kind of getting you used to college and just kind of figuring out the nitty gritty, like, how to register for classes, what classes you should be taking, where your classrooms are, where the bathrooms are, literally and metaphorically, that kind of stuff. You work with professional advisors because it's Grace and I's job to help you kind of acclimate to that and figure out that transition. So we really want to support you in those ways because it's not necessarily just an academic change. It's a social change. It's an emotional change. It's a physical change. There's like, it's cultural in and of itself when you come to college. So kind of supporting your transition to college and kind of helping you figure out just Seattle University and then navigating the nursing program in general. You will, however, have that faculty advisor. Again, that's somebody who teaches. It's a professor at the university within the College of Nursing. You'll have them in your third and your fourth years. And the idea behind this is all the faculty advisors are nurses, and Grace and I are not. So for your first 2 years, we kind of help you figure out what college is. Your second 2 years, you've got that under your belt. Now it's time to talk about what do you want to do as a nurse? There are so many pathways in nursing, so many options. And even if you're like, I want to be in labor and delivery or something like that, cool. There's a ton of pathways within labor and delivery or how to get there and stuff like that. Grace and I can't answer those questions. So you have a faculty advisor in your second 2 year, you actually have that. So you have contact with a nurse as kind of a mentor position. So you can ask those questions and figure out what you need. Like, what internship should I do? What should I put on my resume? What should I be planning on? What should I look for in a job? That kind of stuff. And so that'll really help with the career development of that portion. The other thing is too, is they'll help you prep for the NCLEX. The NCLEX is the national licensure exam that you take once you're done with your degree. So when you graduate from Seattle University, you graduate with a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing or a BSN, and that's your degree. However, you're not a nurse at that point because you're not a registered nurse. So you have to take the NCLEX, which is a licensure exam, which basically is your boards, that proves that you have the knowledge needed in order to become a nurse. And once you pass the NCLEX, then you are a nurse. You are an RN or a registered nurse, and you can start working as a nurse. So you graduate from Seattle U with BSN, then you take the NCLEX. Once you pass that, you're a registered nurse. So my point with this is that the faculty advisors will help you kind of figure out how to study for the NCLEX, and they will ask you questions and give you resources and stuff like that too in your second 2 years. And they're experts in that as well. All right, so just kind of as a lay of ground rules for advising, you are required to see your advisor once per quarter. Okay, and that applies for all 4 years. So you're going to see your advisor, your professional advisor, every single quarter for your first 2 years. And then you're going to see your faculty advisor at least once a quarter in your second 2 years. If you want to see your advisor more, awesome. Please make appointments with us. Come see us in our office. We have open door policies. You can always come talk to us. Okay, please come see us more than once if you want to, for sure. If you only want to see us once a year, or excuse me, once a quarter, that's absolutely fine too. It's just a question of what you need, okay? You will get a very long informational email in fall quarter as basically how to sign up for scheduling. We have something called, it goes through, actually, it's called Slate, basically, for student success, and it's through an academic portal that y'all will have access to once you start here at Seattle University in fall quarter specifically. And you'll have a link to your advisor to sign up for specific scheduling that way. And so you will get more information about that in fall quarter once we start, or right before fall quarter, probably actually. Okay. And one thing that I realized I didn't say, so if you have any questions that are absolutely burning that cannot wait until the very end, you are welcome to put them in the chat. Grace is actually monitoring. Did you already say that, Grace? I haven't been paying attention to the chat. No. Grace is monitoring the chat for questions and things like that. So if you have anything that is absolutely burning, you are welcome to put it in there, and Grace is going to be monitoring the chat and answering. You can either send it directly to her, or you can put it out in the open if you think other people would want to know the answer as well. If you send a private message to me, I won't see it until I'm done with the presentation because I'm still talking at this particular point. Okay. All right. All right, so now that we've talked a little bit about academic advising and what the structure is, this is kind of an overview of what academic advising is. Like we talked about, what is it that we're like, you're going to talk to us about how the quarter's going, how things are going, but there's a couple of different topics that just can give you a brief overview. So we'll talk about your educational planning. With nursing specifically, you have a very, very rigid schedule because classes are only offered at certain times during the year, and you have a scaffolded basically program of study, so everything builds on each other. But we'll talk about what classes are going to be where. We'll kind of map out what you're thinking about, what your courses are. Potentially, we'll talk about any study abroad. If you're interested in that, we'll go into that in depth in a little bit. And we'll talk about probably a lot like study habits and things like that. So things may change between what you did in high school and what you did in college in terms of studying. We'll talk about tips and tricks. We'll talk about time management, testing anxiety, scheduling, all that kind of stuff if that's what you're interested in. We'll also talk about some of the challenges and changes that you're going through just in terms of transitioning to college. So how you doing as a human being? Well, a lot of the times when we come into advising meetings, a lot of people want to talk about academics, and that's awesome. Absolutely, we should be talking about academics, but I also want to hear about how you're doing as a person. You're here at Seattle University as a student, you wouldn't be otherwise, but you as a student is not the entirety of who you are. So there's other facets and information that we should know, or we can talk about if you want to talk about type of thing, because that helps determine who you are and how you're doing as a human being and if you're healthy. So thinking about how to overcome any difficulties that you may be coming in or that you may be encountering while you're here, both in terms of academics or personal stuff. We'll talk about any personal changes to your program of study if needed, like maybe you need to take some time off or we need to switch class or something like that. And then I'll also kind of help you understand, or your advisor will help you understand your policies and procedures, because that does come into play when it comes to like classes and navigating things as well. And then lastly, a lot of what we talk about is going to be connecting you with resources. So there's tons of stuff on campus. To be honest, it's so overwhelming that there are not ways that you can learn about everything unless somebody kind of directs you to them sometimes. So one of the advisor's jobs is to help you kind of direct to those resources as needed, or if just to provide you information. So there's tutoring services that are going to be available for your classes in fall quarter and winter quarter and there on out. There's a writing center. Maybe we need to talk to financial aid office if there's something hinky that's going on with your paperwork or something like that. There's health resources, both in terms of physical and mental health. There's opportunities for networking and mentorship here on campus and then off campus if we're talking to faculty and stuff like that. And then there's a whole host of clubs if you're interested in different things on campus. It can be writing, it can be volunteering, it can be cooking, it can be politics, it can be whatever it is that you're interested in. The only club that I know that got denied in terms of when somebody asked to make it was a fencing club. So I think pretty much everything else really applies if you're interested in stuff. However, advising is not just a one-way street. So I'm not just going to talk at you like I'm doing right now type of thing. It's going to be a conversation back and forth between yourself and your advisor. So that means you have some responsibilities and come into your advising appointment as well. So the first thing is to check your SU email daily, and that applies starting now, really. So the university is not going to get in contact with you pretty much any other way other than email. There is sometimes there is some stuff that's actually coming out that people will text you, which we don't do that for advising, but there may be other departments on campus that will text you. But generally speaking, your SU email is the only way that people are going to get in touch with you, and that includes your professors. So it's not just us that's going to be emailing things. Maybe if classes are canceled and you didn't check your email, you still go to class. Maybe there's going to be a pop quiz that your professor emails you about in advance, and then if you don't check your email, you don't know. So a lot of the times we actually say, what we recommend is every time you have a significant meal, hopefully that's at least twice a day, check your email. Okay, kind of getting on that schedule, making sure that you're actually getting into the habit of checking your email. Y'all get a lot of emails, and a lot of them are just kind of, I don't want to say junk emails, but a lot of them are like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to pay attention to that. I'm just going to delete it. So if you don't check your email for a couple of days, you're going to have an inbox of like 50, and it's not fun to go through. So keeping on top of it is definitely something you want to do. Also, something to note is that this is your experience, your college experience, your education, and nobody can do it for you. So you need to be accountable to kind of yourself and your professors and those around you. So again, checking your email, nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to make you go to class potentially. Nobody is going to be, there are few people that are going to be checking up on you in a way that was probably a little bit more typical in high school potentially. So make sure you're staying on top of what you need to stay on top of, and that includes going to advising and things like that too. Another thing is make sure you're thinking about your academic future. Obviously, y'all are here for nursing, so that's not really a question at this particular point, unless maybe it is a question, in which case we can talk about it if you're not 100% sure you want to do nursing. But thinking about what is it that you want to get out of college? And what is it that you want out of classes? What is it that you want when you're done with your degree in some way, shape, or form? And this is not a question you have to address at every single advising meeting, but it is a question that I want you thinking about as we're kind of going into college. And then obviously, I want you to make sure that you are coming prepared to your advising appointments. That means writing down questions that you may have or anything like that. Maybe it's, thinking about it a little bit beforehand. What is it that you really want to take in classes for next quarter? Or if there's any like concerns that you may have or you're coming up or something like that, have those kind of written down and bring them up at advising. It's really helpful. Then we also ask that you know your degree requirements and know the rules. So there's policies, procedures, that's the stuff that we will help you out regardless. But we would, again, since this is your education, we ask you to be accountable. Make sure you do your research before we talk about it too, okay? If you have a question or something like that. All right. So this is the program of study that I promised that we talk about. Again, this is a typical program of study, so it's not necessarily 100% going to be yours, okay? Most people, it will be, but it's not guaranteed. So the way to read this, there's a couple of different things. This is 4 years basically laid out before you. So you've got different quarters here. You've got fall, you've got winter, and you've got spring. So that kind of determines where you are. We never take classes over the summer unless you have to make up a class or something like that, or you want to take summer classes. But summers are generally to do with as you wish. So you don't have to worry about taking classes there unless you're required to for some unknown reason that's for you specifically. And then we also are separated out by years. So this is your first year, your second year, your third year, and your fourth year. That's how you read that, okay? And your classes are broken down here, and you can see what class you have, the title, Principles of Cell Biology, and how many credits you're going to be taking in every single quarter, okay? The last thing down here to note too, before I kind of go into detail on what you're going on here, these are your U-Core courses. And U-Core courses stand for University Core Courses. They're those general education courses that you're going to get at Seattle University because it is a liberal arts institution. So even though y'all are doing a STEM degree, you still have to do liberal arts courses, okay? That's that generalized education that you get overall. So you do have U-Core spots that are already slotted into your program of study. So you see one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's two here. The one XXXX or two XXX, that's a suggestion. Okay, so when you sit down with your advisor, you will go over what U-Cores you have an option to take in winter quarter type of thing. You don't have to take maybe like a 1300 or a 1400. Maybe you can take a 2100 if that's something that would work with your schedule and that you have the credits to do so, and it's not going to overtax you. Okay, so there is a little bit of flexibility when it comes to the U-Cores. It's just a question of determining what works best for you. Okay. And then you have 10 U-Cores in total, and you have 10 U-Core slots. So you will get them all done by the time you graduate, okay? All right, so a couple of things to note. Actually, I would go back. The first 4 quarters are going to be your prerequisite courses, okay? So those are kind of the foundational courses that you need to take before you get into the higher upper division nursing courses. So this is Intro to Chem, Intro to Bio, Anatomy and Physiology 1 and 2, Microbiology, Psych, that kind of stuff. So those are going to be through other departments. It's going to be through the biology department, the chem department, the psychology department, and the math department, okay? But you will be with your cohort, your incoming nursing class, basically for most of them, okay? And good Lord, in winter of your second year, your sophomore year, you start your upper division nursing courses. And this course right here, Nurse 3405, called Health Assessment Interventions, is your first hands-on nursing course. So this is where you learn the basics of nursing. So this is how you you learn how to transfer patients, how to wash your hands, which is very, very particular when it comes to healthcare, how to give injections, how to pass medications, how to put catheters in, that kind of stuff. So this is the basic hands-on stuff. You start that in winter of your sophomore year. In spring of your sophomore year, you actually start your clinicals. So you start pretty darn early. You start with health of older adults, which is also called geriatrics or gero, okay? So this is going to be in a long-term care facility, and you work with older adult population. The other thing to note is that you see here, you've got a theory course and you've got a clinical course, and this applies for all of your clinicals. So you've got theory courses here and clinical courses here, theory here, clinical here, et cetera, et cetera. And that's because your theory course is where your classroom course for that population. So in your clinical course, when you actually go to your clinical site, you're not going to see everything that you need to know for that population. It's going to be a snapshot, obviously, because you only go to clinical once a week, okay? So Because you need to know a lot more, you have a classroom course where you're sitting in a classroom and you're learning about the population that you're working with, both the granular and the global, okay? So you have that for every single clinical. For your clinicals, you have older adults, what I just talked about. And then in hospital settings, you're gonna have mental health and reproductive health. So you take one of them in fall quarter and then you take the opposite in winter quarter. So you take a both, so mental health and reproductive health. Then you also have health of children and families, which is also called pediatrics or peds. And then you have health of adults, which we call medical, surgical, or med surg in excuse me, senior year. So you take one of them here, and again, you take the other one here. So you take 5 clinicals in total, and you will take them all. It's not like you have to choose one or the other, okay? All right. I was gonna say, do we have any questions? But I think I may actually hold off because I know I'm talking a lot and I know we only have a limited amount of time. So we will keep going. I think that's the other thing, thank you, Grace. You put these stars in and that really helps. The other thing too is to note that you actually have something called a population health internship in your junior year. And you notice here it's 1 credit, so it's a little bit less work, but it's basically, it is a clinical that's stretched out over the entire year. Your other clinicals are very, very focused. Like you've got geriatrics here, you've got mental health and reproductive health here. You're going to clinical once a week and it's like an 8 or 12-hour shift. It's very intensive, okay? For your population health internship or your PHI, it is more stretched out, so you kind of balance your hours a little bit more that way. And the idea behind it is that this will actually get you into a setting to learn public health. So for your other clinicals, again, you're going to be in a hospital setting, which is also called inpatient. It's very acute, very intensive usually. But a lot of nursing does not take place in hospitals. It takes place in communities. So the idea behind your population health internship is that you get that public health clinical, and then for that clinical, you're placed in a community and you stay there for the entirety of the year. So you really get to know that community, you really get to understand the problems that they're facing, and you put together some kind of project or education or intervention or something like that to help address that problem in that community, and you do it over the entirety of the year. So again, we're really trying to get you a multitude or a large faceted version basically of nursing. We want you to see all sides of it, and that includes public health. So that's why we have that internship there. And that will be your junior year. Okay. So academic expectations. This is going to sound a little bit scary, but I promise you, A, it's not, and B, it's subject to change. So I will get into that in a second. But there are 2 GPAs that you will have to pay attention to while you're here at Seattle University. The first is called your cumulative GPA, and that is everything that you take here at Seattle University. So for context, anything that you have taken outside of Seattle University, be it in high school, be it college credit, be it SAT scores, ACT scores, whatever that is, those will never count in your GPAs. We do not count those ever in your GPAs. Even if you take summer school and transfer it in, the grade will not transfer the credit for the class will. And if that applies to you in the future, we'll go into that. But so only things that go into your GPAs here at Seattle University are classes that you take here at Seattle University specifically. Your cumulative GPA is everything that you take. So it's going to be your nursing prerequisites, those like bio, chem, oh my gosh, math classes that we were talking about before. It's going to be your U-Core classes that we talked about. It's going to be your nursing classes, like your clinical and your theory courses that we were talking about. It's also going to be any electives or a minor that you may have. That's all going to in one bucket called your SU cumulative GPA. That needs to stay at is 2.75 or higher, okay? And that's a B- average, by the way. If it goes below, you work with your advisor basically to help you get it back to where you need to be. There's a couple of places where we have checkpoints where you have to be at a certain GPA. That doesn't come until fall of your sophomore year for your first checkpoint, so we don't have to worry about it really until that point. And you'll talk with your advisor if you're below that and work to get it up, okay? The other GPA is your nursing major GPA. And this is only your nursing prerequisites. So bio, chem, anatomy and physiology, microbiology, that kind of stuff. And then your nursing courses. So anything that you see with an NURS in front of it on your program of study. So health assessment, like we were talking about, your clinical courses, your theory courses, your PHI, those are going to be your nursing courses. That needs to stay at a 3.0, which is a B or higher. Okay. And again, we have a checkpoint for that, but it's not until your second year. Okay. So we give you the first year to kind of figure out college and figure out academics and stuff like that. And would check in basically with your GPA in your second year. This is subject to change, however. So there is some updates that are potentially happening across the university just in terms of GPA requirements. It is not going to go up. It may go down in terms of those requirements. Okay, so I will keep you up to date, or somebody will keep you up to date as much as possible once we actually hear confirmation of any policies or anything like that. And we will let you know with as much information as possible once we get those updates and give you more information. Okay. One thing that will not change is that every student must earn a C or higher in all of their prerequisite nursing courses and their nursing courses. So again, prerequisite courses are bio, chem, math, and psych. Those first 4 quarters, those classes you have to earn a C or higher, and all of your nursing classes, again, the NURS courses, so health assessment, clinicals, PHI, all that stuff, you have to have a C or high in order to pass. If you do not pass with a C or higher, then you have to retake the course. And what gets a little bit tricky is that sometimes the courses aren't repeated the next quarter. So you would work with your advisor to kind of figure out a schedule that would work for you to help you keep on track and make sure that you can retake that course as needed. Okay. All right. So I know this is a lot of information, but believe me when I say you will hear this ad nauseum for the next couple of years. So you do not have to, where there's going to be no pop quiz at the end of this, I promise. And we will say this multiple times to you. All right. So My Seattle U is the software that you will use in order to plan out your classes, to look at your grades, to register for classes. It gives you your unofficial transcript. There's a bunch of different stuff. So I don't know, have you been able to log on to My Seattle U? Have you looked at that yet? Thumbs up. Yes. Okay. So you do have access to that. So you can play around with that. What I would ask is that you don't add classes or take away classes at this point. What we're going to do is we're going to actually load a template on for you for that 4-year program. So you don't have to add classes every single time. If you have already done so, it's not the end of the world by any means. But we will basically load those classes on there for you, and then you can adjust them as needed. The two things to note, okay, the two things to note about My Seattle U is one is going to be your program evaluation, and eventually we will actually, there's going to be a video link here if you ever want to take a look at it. It will kind of show you how do you read your program evaluation, how to do this. But your program evaluation is basically a living transcript for everything that you've taken, you have taken, or you will take at Seattle University, and it lives on My Seattle U. And so you can access it, and it will show you what classes you are going to be required to take. It will show you the class that you've planned it out for, the quarter that you planned it out for. It will show you the credit, and will eventually show you the grade once you've actually taken the course. We'll also show any classes that you've already taken, either previously, maybe you're bringing in credit for classes from high school or a college degree or college credits or something like that. It will show you what credits you have earned, and it will kind of give you a check mark for things that you've already completed, which is really nice. It will also show you your cumulative and your major GPA, okay? So they're a little bit hidden. Your cumulative GPA is at the very top. It's called both cumulative and institutional. Those are the same. And then your major GPA is going to be in the middle, right next to your nursing classes. And again, I will tell you this over and over again, so you don't have to memorize it now. But it will be, this is where you will find that information if you ever want to know it off the top of your head, okay? The other thing is the scheduling and registering part of it. So you're going to plan out your classes. Again, we're going to load that template for you, and then you register for and then drop classes through that particular system. It's relatively easy, but when you do your registration session in July, it's going to be capped, I think, at 25 people per session, and there's going to be two advisors or coordinators there that work with you. So we'll show you exactly how to do it, and we'll register with you basically. So it's a little bit easier that way, and we'll kind of go over it one-on-one. It's not hard, but it's helpful if somebody actually shows you what to do. So make sure you sign up for a registration workshop. They start, I believe, on the 8th, which is a Monday, if I remember correctly. So, and they run for 2 weeks. If you can't make one of those registration workshops, we have a couple of makeup workshops like 2 weeks after that too, okay? And if you can't make any of those, email me and we'll set something up, okay? At some point, or we'll get it set up through orientation potentially. So make sure that you sign up for that registration workshop. If you do not sign up, you will not be able to sign up for classes because there's going to be a hold on your account, except for the day that you've signed up for a registration workshop. Okay. All right. So this is the registration and program evaluation video. I just realized that I cannot copy and paste that into the chat, except Grace has already done it because she's amazing. So if you want to like click on that and then bookmark it or something like that, you can always look at later. And have that, it will show you exactly how to read your program evaluation. It will show you how to register for classes too. Okay. All right. So a lot of people always have questions about study abroad, because study abroad is something that is a really, really cool opportunity in college if you have the ability to do so. And there are kind of two ways of thinking about this. The first, well, there is a blanket statement for everything to do with study abroad, though, when it comes with the College of Nursing specifically, or I should say the nursing program, is that y'all cannot go abroad during the school year. Again, because the College of Nursing, like the program is so rigid, we usually only offer courses once a year. So if you miss Gero Theory and Clinical, you have to wait until next year in order to take it again. And you can't do that because it is a prerequisite for your other clinicals. So that means that you cannot go abroad in spring quarter, you can't go abroad in winter, and you can't go abroad in fall. You can only go abroad in summer quarter, okay? Again, summers are to do with as you wish, so you can do anything you want over the summer quarter. And there are two study abroad options basically for summer. The first is going to be kind of a general study abroad, and that's what everybody thinks about when they think of study abroad. So maybe you go to a different university, you take some classes there, maybe you're living with in a dorm with other people, or you're staying there for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, that kind of thing. So that's the general study abroad. And if you are interested in something like that, we have an education abroad office, which is really, really cool. That's their website right there. Take a look at what they have. They have literally everything. Even if they don't offer it directly through My Seattle U, we have a bunch of other affiliate programs that we work with that will go to different places if you're not interested in something that's specifically 100% My Seattle U. The other option is going to be the nursing immersion program, and this is only offered for nursing students after their sophomore year. So y'all can't sign up for this until after your sophomore year, but you can go after like summer after sophomore year or summer after junior year. It's 2 to 3 weeks. It's either in July or August, kind of depends on how we configure that and with scheduling and things like that. And we usually go, the last couple of years, we've gone to Guatemala and Bolivia. In the past, we've gone to Belize, we've gone to Nicaragua and a couple of other places, but Guatemala and Bolivia, I think, is on the books for now. You do not have to speak Spanish in order to go. Okay, so the faculty that go with you are nursing faculty, and they are fluent in Spanish, so they can help you out with that. But the idea behind it is that you are actually going to be doing public health nursing while you're down there. So you're going to be doing education, you're going to be doing checkups, you're going to be doing potentially stuff like cervical exams or something like that with folks to check for cervical cancer screening. So there's going to be things to do as a nurse, and that's why you can't go into the end of your sophomore year, because you need specific nursing skills in order to do that. And it's usually, again, it's 2 to 3 weeks. During the weekdays, you're usually doing that nursing work. You're off in the evenings, and then you have the weekends to kind of travel, and people do that in groups and things like that. It's a really, really cool experience. So once that becomes available to you, you'll get more information on how to sign up for that. But that will be potentially during the summer and sophomore and junior year. Okay, so these are some of the frequently asked questions that we've been getting from y'all, so kind of wanted to address them off the bat. The first thing is going to be your ALEKS Math Placement Assessment, and if you have not heard of this, then you need to go check on your new student checklist like now. I think the last day for taking the ALEKS Placement Assessment is going to be Friday. You need to have taken at least once before that point, okay? So the ALEKS placement exam is required for pretty much all students. The only way that you can get that waived is if you've had college, if you've taken and passed a college level math class with a C or higher, I believe, and it has to be like a college algebra course type of thing. It can't be like, it can't be like multiplication and fractions, that kind of stuff. It has to be algebra and above. And if you do have that, either email myself or Grace or something like that with a transcript that gives the grade for that class, and we can try to waive that for you, or we should be able to waive that for you. Or if you've taken the ALEKS assessment at a different institution in the last year, then you can have it waived as well. We just need a certification for that as well if you email us. But the idea behind the ALEKS Math Placement Test, please, please, please take this seriously. Okay, so a lot of people just take it and they're like, it's a checklist thing, I'm done, I don't need to worry about it. The thing is, for nursing, you have a very specific requirement for math. So if you do not place, let me back up. So the ALEKS placement test basically determines what math you're going to be able to be placed in at Seattle University. So there's a couple levels of math. There's going to be kind of, let's call it Math 1, Math 1000. That's kind of the very basic math. For nursing, you have to place into math algebra, like it's called 1010 or higher, basically algebra and above. If you place below it, then you have to take Math 1000 before you can take Math 1010, and that adds an extra class. Usually that means summer school or something like that. So please, please, please take this seriously. Study for it if you need to. If you haven't taken math in a couple of years, go find an old SAT book, or go find like, Khan Academy or something like that you can find. Do some practice questions and then take that test, because the higher that you score, that's good, because that means you don't have to take the basic class before you can take the nursing requirements. Okay. Again, please take this seriously. Do not just take it and then, zero out every single question or something like that. You can take it up to 3 times, I think, Grace. Is that right? Is it twice or 3 times?
It's up to 3 times.
Sweet. Okay. So you can take it up to 3 times. So if you've already taken it and you did not take it seriously, please take it again after studying for it a little bit. Okay. So again, you can take it up to 3 times. We have probably until the end of August to get to that third time. But if it gets a little bit tricky, because if you score below like that Math 1010, that algebra requirement, then we have to get you into Math 1000 in fall quarter instead of a different class. So please make sure that you're taking that quickly and making sure that you're taking it seriously. Okay. All right. This particular bullet says to submit your APIP, SAT scores official transcript. Please do that like now if you have not, because that really helps determine what classes you're going to be taking in fall quarter. So there are some folks that have like a 5 on their Chem AP test. That means that they don't have to take Intro to Chem in their fall quarter. But I don't know that because I'm looking at your program and you haven't submitted your AP scores. Okay. If you have taken an Intro to Bio college credit course, but you haven't submitted your college transcript, I don't know that when looking at your profile, but that means you don't have to take like intro to biology in your first quarter. So please make sure to submit your scores, even if you're not 100% sure if this is going to count or something like that. It's worth it, as long as it doesn't cost you extra money. It's worth submitting them regardless. Okay. Let's see. Grace, would you be able to post the AP policy in the chat if you can
Yeah, I can do that.
Perfect. Thank
I'll
you
look
so
it
much.
up right now.
The AP, what we're posting basically right now, or what Grace is going to be posting, is going to be a link to a policy that tells you exactly what scores that you need for your AP tests in order to actually get out of the class, get credit for the class and get out of it. The one thing to note is that the biology department does not accept AP biology credit in order to like test out of your biology class. The only way that you cannot have to take an intro to biology course in your first quarter is going to be if you've already got college credit for an intro to bio course. Okay. AP bio does not count. The biology department has made the determination that AP biology does not go into enough depth, so they will not accept the class, which is a bummer. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Let's see. Isn't there something else? Yes. So a lot of people always have questions about taking a minor or completing a minor, I guess. And the short answer is that yes, you can do it. The long answer is it can be very, very difficult, and it is sometimes not recommended depending upon your particular situation. For those people that are going to bring in credits, be like probably 15 and up in terms of credits. So maybe you have credits for a couple of UCORs, or you've already taken chemistry or biology or math or intro to psych or something like that. That gets a little bit easier because minors are about 30 credits, which ends up being about 6 extra classes on top of everything else that you're doing. You remember that program of study, it's really, really rigid and it's very full. So it's very difficult to add classes on top because it's a lot of work in order to add extra classes and things like that. There's always the option of summer courses and things like that. So you can sit down with your advisor in fall quarter and kind of be like, I'm really interested in a psych minor, or I'm interested in a social work, or women and gender studies, or LGBTQ studies, or history, or chemistry, biology, whatever it is. You can sit down with them and say like, I'm interested in this, and they can try to map it out with you. But if you're not bringing in credits, it is something that we generally don't recommend because it is probably too much extra work on top of everything else. The other thing is going to be elective opportunities. So this kind of goes along with your minor. If you're bringing in credits, potentially you have some spaces either to take electives for a minor or something else. And just to let you know, I realize I'm talking some official language and everybody may not know what I'm talking about. So an elective is basically a class that is not a graduation requirement. So for y'all as nursing student, it is not a UCOR, and it is not a nursing prerequisite, and it is not a nursing course. Literally everything else across the university is considered an elective. So a history course, a sociology course, an anthropology course, a language course, another biology course, anything like that is going to be considered an elective. Okay. It's an extra fun course. A minor is a concentration in a different thing. So your major is nursing, and that means your concentration is basically nursing. You're going to graduate with a nursing degree. A minor is a much smaller concentration in a different subject, basically. You don't graduate with a degree in, let's say your minor is anthropology. You don't graduate with a degree in anthropology if you have a minor, but it still goes on your transcript and it goes on your diploma, basically. But it's something that you are generally interested in, that you just wanted to learn more about if you have the opportunity. Okay. So that's what a minor is. So electives, again, are those fun classes that you potentially have the option to take. If you have credits for like, maybe you took AP Psych and you got a score of 4 or higher, that means you don't have to take the required psych course for your prerequisite courses here. Cool. We can put in a class that you're really interested in that psych slot, basically. Maybe you've always wanted to take a Spanish course. Cool. We'll put in a Spanish course there or something like that. If you have enough spots, then maybe we can talk about a minor. But if you only have 1 or 2, we can take 1 or 2 electives over the course of the next couple of years. And that means that you've got a little bit more flexibility that way. Okay, I know I've talked a lot, and I promise we're very close to the end. So again, you're not going to register for today. Okay, we are going to register during your workshop on July 8th or after. So make sure you sign up for those workshops. But again, we're not going to do it today. So we don't touch My Seattle U today in terms of that registration. Please make sure to keep an eye on your SU email. Again, you're going to be getting a ton of emails. I'm sure you already have through orientation and nursing and Seattle U in general and things like that. Just keep an eye on for more information as the summer goes on. And then of course, as the school year starts. All right, so this is my precious kitty, Gracie Lou. She's named after Gracie Lou Freebush from Miss Congeniality, if y'all know that movie. And she is asking who's ready to become a nurse. So I want you all to take a really deep breath because I know this was a lot of information. I know this is a really big start for college, and I just want you to know well, I already said that. So this is a really exciting time. This is going to be really fun. College is fun. Nursing is fun. SU is a really great place to kind of find your place and find your community and your friends. And we are here to support you in everything that you need. Okay. So you're not going to be somewhere without a safety net. We want to help you. We want to help you succeed, and we want to support you. So you've totally got this. Okay. All right. Whew. I feel like I need a gallon of water after that. So at this point, I'm going to turn the floor over to y'all. Do you have any questions, anything like that? You're welcome to shout out. You can put them in the chat. You can private message myself or Grace if you want to go that particular route or something like that. You don't want to put your name to it. That's totally fine too. I'm also going to stop sharing so I can see people's faces a little bit better.
I will just hop in here because there's been some direct messages in the chat, but I think a lot of the answers that we'll give will apply to everybody. So you're welcome to directly message us, but I promise you the other people have the same questions. So just to kind of go with some of the questions I haven't had a chance to answer yet. So one of the,
I was going to stop recording at this particular point. Okay.
oh, okay, sure.
All
We're
right.
stopping
All
recording.
right. Thanks.
Okay.